The preseason coming to a close this weekend and cutdown day this coming Tuesday, August 26th at 4 p.m. Let's talk about who's going to make the roster in 2025 for the Chargers. As I give you my preseason projections for the 53-man roster, let's get into it. All right, so the Chargers are going to have some decisions to make here in the next few days, probably 5 days now. At this point, it is August 21st, and cutdown day is the 26th. So they got one more preseason game to evaluate things. I'm not sure how many people will play. I would like to believe or like to argue there's probably going to be mostly third and fourth stringers, kind of make that last little push to impress the coaching staff enough to consider them for the 53-man roster. So who's going to make the roster and who's going to be on the practice squad, who might get cut outright. There's a lot to talk about here. So I'm going to give you my full breakdown of who I think is going to make the 53-man roster. So with a few caveats and who I think will ultimately make the practice squad, some notable names people have been high on this preseason have, in all honesty, have made their claims, to make their 53-man roster. But it is only 53 men. So you have to make some hard-hitting decisions. You got some veterans in here, some proven guys that just have to make the roster, obviously. So you can't keep everybody. Some guys will ultimately land on the practice squad, and some guys will be hitting the waiver wire and might likely end up on other teams, especially those teams that are riddled with injury and need help, in their house. So let's talk about offense, defense, the full breakdown, everything that's going to transpire here in a little bit less than a week, I guess you can say. Like I said, they played their last preseason game this weekend, and hopefully we can get out of that unscathed, no more injuries. Had enough of that. But outside of that, it's been a productive preseason. Again, we've dealt with injuries. I can't say that enough, but outside of that, I think it's been a pretty productive preseason for a lot of the guys that are on the bubble, especially. Some guys have become household names in the preseason. Been a lot of talk about them. So will they ultimately make the cut? So I'm going to start out by giving my breakdown with the numbers. So who I think they're going to keep at each position, right? So in talking about the offense, defense, and special teams, obviously you're going to keep, we can get the special teams out of the way real quick. You'll keep one kicker, one punter, and one long snapper. That's 3 men on the roster altogether. So at least 50 men to be on offense and defense. And I think it's going to be a complete split. I think they're going to kind of work the numbers, kind of, I guess you can say, massage the rules in a sense to the point where they can kind of squeeze in some more guys that are multifaceted. But I do think on offense starting off, I think they're going to keep 2 quarterbacks. I don't think 3 is needed, maybe, or the answer. I think you have more needs in other areas and carry 3 on the active roster. What I do believe they will do, though, is carry a 3rd guy as an emergency quarterback on the practice squad. And I'll tell you who I feel like that guy is in the next slide. But I think they're going to keep 2 on the active roster for sure. Of course, Justin Herbert is one, and I'll tell you who the second guy is in a minute. I do think they're going to carry 4 running backs as well. I think there's a really heavy run team. I think this team is really built to be run heavy, run first. So I think they're going to keep 4 quality backs. I do believe that as well. And I'll get into my why in that regard. I think they're going to keep 6 wide receivers in that space. I think they're going to keep 4 tight ends, and that's got a little bit of a caveat to it as well. And I'll break that down. I think we'll keep 9 O-linemen. It would have been 10 if Rashawn Slater was healthy, but I do believe that they're going to keep at least 9 with Rashawn Slater's injury, and to kind of work the practice squad and kind of work things in the waiver wire to kind of keep things, healthy and whole if guys do have to go out for injury or anything in that perspective. So that particular breakdown, that particular number, of course, I'm hoping my math is good, is 25 guys on offense. So defense, I think the edge is they're going to keep 5 edge rushers, as you can see. I do believe they're going to keep 5 edge rushers, and I think we all know who those guys are going to be. They're going to keep 6 internal D linemen. Need a lot of that rotation, especially running a 5-man front, a 34th style defense. I think you need at least 6 able bodies in that interior D line. 4 inside linebackers. I'm a little sketchy on that number. I think they need to keep them a little more than that, maybe 5. especially with Denzel Perryman's injury concerns. Junior Colson is a little bit injury prone, as we've seen in the last year or so. So keeping four is a little bit thin, but I think they have to thin it out because they need spaces in other areas, right? I do believe they keep 6 cornerbacks as well. And I think they keep 4 safeties based upon how they like this run this offense. It's a real heavy zone style defense, and I think they need a lot of corners and safeties to kind of intermingle and fit into the scheme that Justin Miller wants to run, right? So that math alone there also is 25 people. So you got 25 on offense, 25 on defense is a complete even split. And I'll tell you exactly how that's going to work out and work and check out here as I get into who's going to be on offense first. But so who's going to be on the roster in its entirety? Let's talk with the offense. So of course, Justin Herbert is the quarterback, number one, QB1. No argument, no fuss there. And I do think they keep Trey Lance. I've been speaking Trey Lance's praises all through all the preseason, and I think he earned his spot as being QB2 on the roster fully. No practice squad, no bubble type situation. I think he makes the roster as QB2. And that's also a caveat. I think they keep Taylor Heineke. I think they keep Taylor Heineke as an emergency / practice squad / I guess you can say, as needed quarterback. I don't think that based upon how he stunk it up in the preseason, in all honesty, I don't think nobody's going to want him. Honestly, I don't think nobody's going to be grasping at him as a practice squad player. So I do think they're going to keep him as a practice squad / emergency third quarterback who they'll activate based upon the need if ever the issue comes up where he needs to be activated for a game. But I do believe that Taylor Heineke will ultimately be the third emergency quarterback, but he won't be on the active roster. Now, running backs, I think we're going to keep Amari Hampton, obviously. I think they're going to keep Najee Harris, obviously, although his injury is a concern for me. I talked about that earlier this week. But I do believe they keep 2 other guys. Now, I know these aren't popular names. I think a lot of guys were kind of out on these 2 for different reasons. Kamani Vidal hadn't done much in the preseason, in all honesty. And Nyheim Hines had a little bit of issues with punt returning and dropping muffing punts. But I will say that they're going to keep them for these particular aspects, right? I know a lot of people love Raheem Sanders and things of that nature. Hassan Haskins is a hardball guy, but I do believe that they're going to end up keeping even Jared Patterson, who's my guy. I coached a kid when he was younger, and I hope that he would make the roster, but I think he's going to be a practice squad player as well as Raheem Sanders. But I think they keep Kamani Vidal and Nyheim Hines for this particular reasons. I think Kamani Vidal brings a different skill set than the thumpers that Najee Harris and Amari Hampton are. Amari Hampton and Najee Harris are big-time power backs, right? They're big-time power backs. I think Kamani Vidal give you a different versatile component to your backfield. I think he can be a scat back, a third down back, as well as a selective runner when you want to do certain things in the run game that Amari Hampton and Najee might not be the best at. And he has the speed. I think he might be the faster of the backs between him and Nyheim, might be the faster of the 4. So I think that you utilize his speed, his size, and you have to also remember they drafted him. They drafted him for a reason. He is a hardball draft pick. So they're going to give him any and every possibility to make the roster and be on this team. So I think that he has a leg up because he's on the contract. They drafted him for a reason. They like something in him, and they're going to give him all opportunities they possibly can to him to flourish as a running back in this league. So outside of them maybe trading him for some reason, because they got Amari Hampton now, I think they keep Kamani Vidal on the roster, in my opinion. And why they keep Nyheim Hines is this reason as well. Because you look at Hassan Haskins, right? He's not great. He's not a great runner, but he is great in pass protection. He's a good third down pass protecting back. But so is Nyheim Hines. And Nyheim Hines does things that Hassan Haskins cannot do. He is great in open field. He's a great third down catching back. He's really fast. And he has a special teams component because he can return kicks and punts. So with him being multifaceted and can pass protect out the wazoo, I do believe that they're going to keep Nyheim Hines for that particular reason. I think that's why they brought him in, because he brings those type of skill sets to the team, is multifaceted. And there's another guy I'm going to talk about later on down on this list that's kind of in the same boat. That's why they're keeping him. I think that because he adds so much and he does so much for this team and can do so much for the team, they're going to keep Kamani and Nyheim for those reasons. I think there's going to be the 4 backs that we're going to see, in my personal opinion. So let me know in the comments how you feel about it. But I do believe when everything shakes out, for those reasons, they're going to keep those 4 backs. Wide receivers, I think they keep Keenan Allen, no question there. Lamb McConkey as well. Trey Harris, of course. Keandre Levin-Smith, of course. Quentin Johnson, of course. He's from a former first-round pick. Hope he gets back on the field soon from his concussion. And keep Darius Davis for his speed and his special teams abilities. So, between him and Nyheim Hines, I think they're going to be the primary guys on special teams. And that gives a really good dynamic opponent. And I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, Luke Grimes is not going to make the list. I know that we know everybody wants to give him love because he shined in the preseason on special teams. However, I think because he's only special teams, he doesn't really bring you much else outside of that particular component. Which you have in Naheem's can do multiple things, and so does Darius. And Darius knows the offense. They're going to be the guys going to be on special teams. I think Luke Grimes is going to be the odd man out. Sorry to say, but I like the kid, but I don't think he's going to make it, in my personal opinion. Tight ends, clearly Tyler Conklin and Will Dissly and Rondé Gaston going to make it. And then Scott Matlock is going to be the fourth, quote unquote, air quote tight end. And they're going to, outside of Tucker Fisk, I think they're going to either practice squad or cut Tucker Fisk for this particular reason. Scott Matlock is a fullback and a defensive tackle. He plays both sides of the ball. Tucker Fisk does not. So if I can get the same production from a fullback perspective that I can get out of him and Tucker Fisk, and I can get Scott Matlock to play some snaps on defense, I'm going to use that roster spot with a 4 tight end set to let Scott Matlock be the 4th tight end versus give him an actual quote-unquote fullback title and using him on defense. So I utilize my roster spot for that. Again, much like Nyheim Hines is a multifaceted guy. He brings multiple things to the table. He plays offense and defense versus just being one side of the ball and not being great at either. But I think Scott Matlock is going to do both for this team. So I think he makes it as the 4th tight end. O-line, of course, is no, I guess you can say no guesswork here with the O-line starters. Joe Alt, Zion Johnson, Bradley Bozeman, Mekhi Becton, and Trey Pipkin. The reserves, I think, is Jamari Salyer, Branson Taylor, once he come back from injury. I think Joe Klatzenberger has made it. He's impressed the most out of the reserves that played in the preseason. And I think they keep David Sharp. Not really big on him based upon his performance last weekend in the preseason. Doesn't look great. Maybe he needs to work himself in a little bit better shape. I don't know. He's been on the sidelines for a little while. I don't know. Don't really, I guess you can say, quote unquote, love his abilities. But I think his size, if nothing else, they're going to keep him because they brought him in and they like what they saw. I don't know. But I think those are your 4 guys that they keep. Outside of that, nobody's really moving the needle for me. That's a reserve guy outside of those names. So I think they keep those 4. I like Jamari's talent. I like Branson's talent from a run blocking perspective. Klassenberg also looks good as a backup center. And David Sharp. Now, I know Andre James is in this conversation, as well as maybe some few others, quote unquote, lesser name guys. But I think that Andre James hadn't shown much. And I think they like David Sharp's bigger body. And he's more of a tackle versus interior lineman. If I can get a backup center out of Josh Klatzenberger and do away with Andre James and keep David Sharp as a tackle, I think they probably will do that. Because you look at it from Jamari Salyer and Branson Taylor's perspective, they're both more interior guys, although Jamari can play tackle. I think that you can get, especially with having an injury to tackle, you get a multifaceted guy in Salyer and Sharp can play inside or outside, and Klassenberg can play center. I don't think there's really a need for Andre James, in all honesty. I think that's why they end up getting rid of Andre James or practice squatting him, maybe, unless somebody wants him. But honestly, I think that's what they do and keep 4 guys as a reserves, a total of 9 linemen. So there you have it. That is your offense. What's the defense going to look like? So, of course, I talk about the 5 edge rushers. Edge rushers are going to be clearly Khalil Mack and Tulu Pelotu. Cal Kennard, clearly the 4th-round draft. He's going to make it, although he's injured at the moment. I think Caleb Murphy's done enough, and he's a multifaceted player, special teams, and a reserve edge rusher. I think they keep him. They like Buzz Dupree's veteran leadership, so they're going to keep him as well. So I think they keep 5 edge rushers and rotate those guys, keep those guys fresh, and dominate in the pass rush game, hopefully. Fingers crossed. So hopefully this conglomerate of guys, of 5 guys, can get after the passer hot and heavy, because that's been a sore spot for this team for the past several years. Even with having Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, and a few other guys, it hasn't been great. So hopefully they can bring more juice to this lineup. And I think Caleb Murphy and Cal Kennard as that speed component that I've been talking about, because clearly Thule and Khalil Mack are more power rushers. They're not the most fleet of foot or faster guys getting at the mobile quarterbacks. So I think that Cal Kennard and Caleb Murphy being in that lineup as well would ultimately add to that, and hopefully they can run down these mobile quarterbacks more so, and it won't be a sore spot for the team. But that's my take on it. So we'll see how things go. Interior D lineman, no question about Tierra Tart or Jamar Caldwell. Jamar Caldwell's been lighting it up in the preseason. They keep Deshaun Hand. Obviously, they brought him in a free agency. Keep Daquan Jones. Obviously, brought him in a free agency. They drafted Justin Iboji. And I think they kind of on the fence about Otito Obonyo, but he's on the last year of his deal. They give him one more chance to make the roster with his size and his frame, kind of hopefully bring him along as a holdover from the Staley era. I think he makes the roster, but I could be wrong. I wouldn't argue too bad if they let Scott Matlock take the D-line spot and keep Tucker Fisk. But That's the only tweak that I think they could end up doing if they cut out Tito. But I think with his big body and his size, maybe they like some of what they saw in camp, although I really didn't see much in my personal opinion. So I think because of the size, they keep him, but we'll see how things go. But I do think he makes the roster with his size and his ability to clog up lanes, hopefully, in the run game. Interior linebacker, again, it's kind of thin for my taste, but I think that Deion Henley, obviously, Junior Colson with his injury concerns, a little bit of an issue. Denzel Perryman with his issues of injury in the past is a concern. So you keep Troy Dye as well. He's been playing well in the preseason, so I think those are your four. And they practice squad or maybe pick up some other guys in the waiver wire pool once everything shakes out to kind of keep in the tuck so they can ultimately help out if these guys go down. But I think it's pretty thin with four guys in the interior linebacker spot. Cornerbacks, Dante Jackson, obviously, Cam Hart, Team Steele, Benjamin St. Juice, obviously brought him in the free agency. I think Jesse Miller mentioned in the presser, I think Tuesday night or Wednesday, about how he felt like those were four starters. And I think for my money, I think Nico Reed and Eric Rodgers have done enough for my money to ultimately make the roster. I think the only thing that's really a caveat is Eric Rodgers' injury. His injury is very severe, and they feel like he's not going to be on the field early on. They can maybe tuck him on the practice squad and keep Miles Purchase, potentially. But I do believe just here telling D. Leonard out the door. I do believe that. They're on the last year of their deal. They haven't shown much. Some have been hurt. I think D. Leonard's been hurt for a good stretch. So I do think they end up, cutting bait with those two guys. Again, holdover guys. They didn't draft them, so they don't have no allegiance to them. So I do believe that they do end up cutting both of those guys and keeping Eric Rodgers and Nico Reed, who guys they brought in who they like. Now, again, if they put on Eric Rodgers on the practice squad or the pup list or something like that because he's hurt, I think they keep Miles Purchase versus Eric Rodgers, which I like as well. Miles Purchase has played well in preseason also. But I do think Traquez Bridges and a few other guys don't make the cut, in my opinion. So, but I do think they have opportunities to put on the practice squad if they clear waivers. And finally, safeties, no guesswork here from me. Derwin James, obviously, Elijah Molden, obviously. I think Tony Jefferson, Big Unc, has made the roster. He's been shining in the preseason. There's no guesswork there. And RJ Mickens has been shining in the preseason as well. I've been talking about RJ Mickens to the heavens since he got drafted. So I think he clearly makes the roster. He's a very solid cover and tackling safety. I think he's going to be very good for the team going forward. So I love what he's doing. So I think those four guys are locks. And they're going to be really good in the safety room on the back end of this defense. So I'm liking what I'm seeing here. So this roster is going to shake up out pretty good. I think these names are going to bode well for the team offensively and defensively. I think the only question really to me now is how the O-line holds up. Mekhi Becton's injury hadn't been practicing. He's finally doing the 11-on-11 drills. Other guys have been in and out of the lineup. So just the chemistry and the synergy is the only thing that's going to be a really question for me. But I think this roster is a 53-man component. Can be good and will be good, come week one, assume everybody's healthy and ready to roll. So we'll see how things go, man. But, let me know in the comments how you feel about this particular breakdown. Do you think I'm wrong or right on any of those picks? So, who you think you would like to see in exchange for any of these guys? As always, if you're looking for Electric Shock Podcast on any platform, we're Electric Shock Pod on every platform that you can name. All the social media is there. Follow us on those. Hit that subscribe button. Let the YouTube algorithm know we're doing big things out here. We're trying to grow the channel to higher heights and deeper depths. And as always, you got to do one thing and one thing well. You always got to remember to bolt up.